Hey, what's happening, gamers? Welcome back to KwingsLetsPlays and the continuation of the great Ace Attorney Chronicles. This is part of the Ace Attorney Adventures #2 Resolve, and this collection is brought to you by Capcom. Capcom also provided this game for review, walkthrough, and live stream purposes. So, yesterday left off on an amazing cliffhanger, and today is going to be the testimony of Professor Mikotoba. And also, I believe, a female character, which is good for my voice.
Like finally, I get to be the creepy girl.
Yeah, I'm also I'm a little on edge today because there was an announcement for the new Power Ranger characters.
Looks
so
on the edge.
yes, there will be.
Watch out! There'll be major bans in the chat. He's gonna ban like 14 people.
No, don't joke like that.
Okay, I'm just kidding.
Okay, thank you. There's going to be a Power Rangers news video tonight around 10:15, 10:30. There will be no Marvel stream tonight.
No.
Because hey, I got to get the news up.
Luke,
So that's all I have time for.
why do you be hating on us?
Not hating on us. Also, I've reached a point in the game where I can't really continue anyway, so
You should pay $1,000 in rupee, like in real money, to get more for the game.
You can't pay money to strengthen your character's power level.
I'm just
unless
so
I can.
weird.
If I can, let me know, people, because we're kind of stuck. All right, so
I think you can.
I don't think so.
I don't want you to, but
I don't
want you to waste days of work.
I don't
All right,
I don't believe you can.
Kazuma.
All right. So witnesses, please state your name and occupation for the court, please.
Oh my gosh.
Yujin Mikotoba, lecturer in forensic medicine at the Imperial Yumi University in Tokyo, Japan.
Oh, did we share this on social media, yo?
Yep. Thank you so much for the membership. Appreciate
Thank you for
it.
becoming a member. You're breathtaking. Is it Tyler? They're breathtaking, Tyler. No.
Yes, it's
Yes,
Tyler.
it is. You're breathtaking, Tyler. Okay. That's my gory person.
And Professor Mikotoba, the young lady beside you is... Ah, this is Dr. Maria Gori. Scotland Yard's practicing coroner, the daughter of Dr. Scythe, I understand. Yes, Dr. Scythe. I'm afraid I can't tell you why she's here. She just appeared.
Oh my gosh, she's so creepy. She's a ghost.
You summon this strange Japanese man as a witness to the autopsy.
I don't think people are going to be able to hear you.
Fine. I forgot what my voice was like
She
before.
was creepy.
But you don't summon Mama. That makes no sense. She was there too.
That's about the size of it. I've had her eyes boring into the side of my cheek constantly whilst I was in the antechamber too. Poor man. The idea of it's making me shudder too. The revelations about Dr. Scythe that came to light some days ago defiled the reputation of the entire judiciary. She was therefore deemed unfit to appear as a witness in today's proceedings. The Minister of Justice's decision on that is final. Well, we wouldn't want any perjury to be committed now, would we? Alright, the Minister of Justice, huh? Some questionable strings are being pulled, I think. Yes, very well. I remember you, Dr. Mikotoba. But I certainly never expected to be meeting you under these circumstances. Yes, it's been a very long time, Lord Strongheart. The prosecution understands that you were a visiting student of forensic science in London about 10 years ago? That is correct, yes. I studied under Dr. H. Wilson at St. Sinners. So, you were present at the autopsy of my brother, Lord Clint. I was, yes. I assisted Dr. Wilson with the entire procedure.
Mama is far more skilled than any Japanese man.
Whoa. Well,
Wow.
interesting. Dr. H. Wilson asked me to be his primary assistant on that occasion. And this autopsy report was actually penned by you, I believe. Yes. I noted all of the doctor's findings, and when we were done, he read through the document and signed it.
Poor Mama. As secondary assistant, she wouldn't have had such a good view of the innards.
Right. So, Professor, do you remember Inspector Gregson? Yes, of course. If it wasn't for his insistence, Lord Van Zeek's autopsy would never have happened. But he was absolutely convinced that it would reveal decisive evidence against Genshin, you see. So Lord Strongheart had to entreat the nobility to allow it to take place. Do correct me if I'm wrong, my lord. Yes, it was a result of that autopsy that a mass murderer was apprehended and justice was done. But Gregson admitted it before he was killed. He admitted that the results of the autopsy were fabricated. You were there at the time, so you must testify. You have an obligation to tell the truth about what really went on. Absolutely. That's precisely why I'm here.
And that's why I'm here too.
Very well. Then, you will give your formal testimony now, witnesses. But before you begin, a word of warning. Oh? You will state truthfully and accurately what you saw and what you heard at the time. I wouldn't dream of otherwise. Good. The moment of your testimony verges on suspicion, and I will expel you from my courtroom.
Oh my gosh!
Remember that.
Wow. Dude, so like, this guy, we're accusing the judge. They should put a different judge in the judge's seat.
The autopsy of Clint Van Zeeks.
If he's accused, someone should relieve him.
For now, my observations, I wouldn't say there was an indication of the autopsy results having been fabricated. Death resulted from a wound made by a Western-style sword transfixing the heart. That I found a little strange.
There were no other signs of internal injury. Nothing questionable at all. It was just that beautiful but dangerous piece of evidence removed from the man's stomach.
Presumed to have been swallowed by the victim as a way of postmortem identifying his assailant. Huh?
What? He swallowed something to identify?
Nope, no indication, nothing to suggest fabrication? Professor Mikotoba, are you certain about that? Well, nothing that I could positively identify as such, much less swear to in a testimony. Oh!
What? Why is he laughing?
Well, that clears things up nicely.
Dude, why are you laughing? What's wrong with you?
The only fabrication here, Osogi, has come from you. What? You claim the inspector confessed just before his death, but that is the fabrication. No, he freely acknowledged it. I swear he did. Freely? With the tip of a sword at his throat? The man was clearly at his wit's end. Ugh. The court will give no credence to this confession that was uttered in obvious desperation. Quite simply, there was nothing questionable about the investigation of Lord Van Clint's death. And with his testimony, we have without question uncovered the whole truth of the matter.
What? Oh my gosh.
If I may, Lord. There was most certainly something questionable about it. The whole truth does rather elude us, I feel. I beg your pardon? Well, you're obviously aware of the facts of this case. All four of the prosecutor's previous victims died when an enormous beast was set upon them and ripped out their throats.
Oh, such horrifying crimes.
Ew. But curiously, the killer's last victim, Lord Van Zeeks, well, he suffered a different fate.
She's staring at him.
Yes, you're right.
He was stabbed through the heart with a sword.
That's enough. I believe I warned you about this, witness. I promised to curtail your testimony as soon as it entered the realms of suspicion or speculation. Huh. Very well, my lord. In that case, the defense will pursue a conclusion to this during a cross-examination. What? You heard me. I have the right to cross-examine every witness after a testimony. It's my job as the defense, and I fully intend to exercise that right. Ryunosuke.
I'm afraid that even the presiding judge has no authority to contravene the letter of the law. And I'm sure every member of the judiciary, people in the lobby present in the gallery would agree.
Uh-huh. Very well. You may begin, counsel. However, the moment your argument strays from the established facts, I will not hesitate to bring the cross-examination to an end. Proceed with caution. Yes, my lord. Okay, then. What is it, Zelda?
What is she said?
From my own observations, I couldn't say there was any indication of autopsy results being fabricated.
Hold it!
Hang on a second. You couldn't say? No, sadly not. But then, you couldn't say there wasn't any indication either, could you? Well, no, true, I couldn't. I was at Dr. Wilson's side as he performed the procedure according to what he did. But at times, of course, he instructed me to fetch implements and such like. Whilst I was away from the operating table, obviously I could have missed something. And at those times, what was the secondary assistant doing?
Following this Japanese man's orders to adjust the lighting or pass him implements. But that doesn't mean Mama wasn't a vital part of the team.
Quite yes. So you would kindly refrain from staring at my cheek like that, please? Professor Mikotoba, think! Was there nothing at all that seemed out of place to you? Well, yes, there was, a matter of fact. Death resulted from a wound made by a Western-style sword. Hang on.
A Western
In all the previous 4 killings attributed to the professor, the victims were killed by an enormous dog, I believe. Their throats were, well, mauled? Correct. And yet Lord Lord Clint was stabbed. Ah, do you mean to say... You think Clint Van Zieks may not have been one of the professor's victims? There is no basis on to which to doubt the findings of the investigation carried out at the time. But...
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
Genshin Osogi confessed to all of his crimes upon his arrest.
I doubt it.
He admitted to having taken the lives of all 5 members of the royalty. Ugh! Yet the beast that was used to carry out the killings was never identified. No evidence was found to suggest that Genshin had ever kept a dog. A true hound of hell, yes.
Yeah, how could if he never had a pet, then how could he be? He would have had evidence that he had some kind of animal in his house.
But you weren't actually present at the autopsy yourself, Dr. Gory.
Does that matter?
Well, yeah. I just wonder how useful your testimony can be in that case, really. I mean, it would be different if your mother, Dr. Scythe, were in the stand, but...
I've read all the paperwork about the case, and Mama told me the story countless times. The statement I made is just exactly what's written in the autopsy report.
I did confirm that myself at the time, it's true. Besides stab wounds, there were no other signs of internal trauma. I see.
Mama told me all about it.
Oh?
She said there was nothing of note internally, but they did find an amazing piece of evidence. Something unbelievable.
Unbelievable? What do you mean by that? Come on, Dr. Gory, what was it? Okay.
It was just that beautiful but dangerous...
Hold it! What exactly was it, though? What does this beautiful but dangerous thing even mean?
Well, it was sparkly and round, with a hole, as if it might slip over a finger, perhaps.
Can you guys hear Amber, by the way?
They can hear me.
It was a ring belonging to Genshin Osogi. My father's ring was inside the victim's stomach? At the time, Genshin wore a large ring on his,
Did you
left
just...
hand. The fourth on the ring finger or whatever. I'd understand it was some sort of keepsake. When my father left Japan for London 16 years ago, I was 8 years old. But I remember that ring. You do? My father's possessions were sent to our family home in Japan after his death, but the ring wasn't among them. Obviously not. It was a key piece of evidence. It remains under lock and key in the stores at Scotland Yard to this day. After the autopsy, Genshin was summoned by the police to check for the presence of his ring. It wasn't on his hand, of course. Moreover, there was a deep abrasion on his finger where it had been pulled off. Yes.
Why would it have been pulled off?
They arrested the man there and then, right before my eyes. How could they?
I brought the ring along with me today.
What?
Here it is, a bit dusty from the years in the stores.
Good gracious, yes, that's it. I haven't seen that in 10 long years. And that was found inside the victim's stomach?
So they ripped the ring off of him.
Yes, I'm afraid so.
Why would he have eaten
You
it?
hesitated there, Professor Mikotoba. Should we read something into that? Ah, well, it's just that thinking back now, I didn't actually witness the moment it was extracted from the victim's body.
Oh my! Really?
At that precise moment, Dr. Wilson had asked me to fetch him a new scalpel, you see.
So he made him leave.
Dr. Gory, the removal of this historic evidence from the stores requires my consent, does it not? However, it came to be here. The court cannot deny that it is crucial evidence for today's proceedings. What? Very well, you may submit it. Mr. Osogi's ring has been entered into the court record.
Does she know he's dirty? She
I don't
knows.
know. I don't know.
Remember she said, I don't want to become like Mama.
Yep, it's not the sort of ring normally seen in Japan, though almost like the claws protecting that jewel.
We must examine it very carefully, Mr. Naruhodo. Be careful indeed.
Okay. Presumed to have been swallowed by the victim is a way of prosmotius, whatever, I don't care. I want to examine the ring. Examine the ring. I can't find anything out of place. Oh, you idiot. Stop that. Wait. I mean, there's... Oh, there's nothing out of place. Huh. These fat claws are doing a good job of protecting that equally fat gemstone in the middle of this ring.
Yes, if you were clumsy, you could give yourself a rather nasty cut on them, I should think.
Ow! Now my fingers are bleeding. The claws are really sharp.
Interesting. Oh my! This was very quick clumsiness, Mr. Naruhodo, even for you.
Ah, who would make such a dangerous ring? You couldn't swallow it without doing yourself some fair serious damage.
That is what I was just thinking. A sticky mochi bun of about that size would go down much better with some red bean paste in the middle.
Someone as clumsy as me would probably manage to choke on it somehow. Zelda!
Zelda, Luke's not upstairs.
Zelda, I'm right down here. What's going on?
But that's what I'm saying, is like, if you swallow... Okay, may I just tell a story time? When I was like 1 to 3 years old, I actually swallowed a pin. And my parents had to pray like every single day that it wouldn't like mess up my insides. It actually came out opposite, so the pointy end came up, so like I didn't die or anything. But it's very dangerous to swallow something sharp. It could rip up your insides. I'm just saying, like, that would have ripped up his internal organs, his stomach, his like intestines. Like, That would have put, like, all kinds of, like, cut marks all over his body. I mean, it could have really messed him up to swallow that. If it's that sharp. I'm just saying, like, your intestines are not... I don't want to get into this, but your internal organs are very soft. I don't know if anyone knows this, but, like, you think your skin and your outside of your muscles are soft? Your internal organs are even softer than that. It would very easily rip through you.
Presumed to have been swallowed by the victim.
Hold it!
And that was the decisive evidence that led to Genshin Osogi's arrest? Yes, correct. After further investigations by Scotland Yard, the man admitted to his crimes. That's a lie! My father was no killer! Barak von Zeeks, it was you! You twisted the truth to suit your purpose! Don't get emotional, boy. Your hatred for me doesn't change the facts that were established 10 years ago. My brother Clint had closed in on the professor. In the end, he exposed the man and put a stop to his lethal rampage. In the way only a man of my brother's caliber could. By swallowing the dude's ring, but it would have cut up his esophagus. I mean, he was dying anyway. That's everything, is it?
Poor father! He looks so troubled, but they would have made a note of it in the report.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Perhaps 10 years ago, something happened that's been weighing on his mind.
Oh?
I couldn't say. Were his words that phrasing was very deliberate, I'm sure.
I wonder if he's had his suspicions all these years.
If that's the case, we need to use this cross-examination to prove what really happened. And remove any trace of doubt.
If we could establish that Kazuma-sama's claim of fabricated evidence was true...
We can't shy away from this now, even if what we might uncover could lead to a total calamity.
Don't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. I'll be right beside you, whatever may happen.
Okay.
Yeah. Moral of the story, don't swallow sharp things, guys. Stay away from them.
Yeah.
That's my fun fact of the day.
There were no other signs of internal injury.
That's the problem! No
Yep.
signs of internal injury, but you swallowed a sharp object, which would mean there should have been signs of internal injury.
Objection!
That's what I'm saying. Well, because if you swallowed this ring, you would get seriously hurt. The court has heard that the ring was extracted from the victim's tummy. But you didn't actually see it being removed, did you, Professor Mikotoba? That's right, yes. As I said in my testimony before, at the moment I was fetching a replacement scalpel that Dr. Wilson had requested. In other words, you can neither confirm nor deny whether this ring, in fact, really came from the victim's stomach or not. What are you suggesting, Consul? I'm getting to that. That the ring was never in the victim's stomach to begin with. It was entirely feasible that Dr. Wilson fabricated that detail about the autopsy. What are you saying? That Dr. Wilson was in possession of the ring in advance, after it was somehow stolen from Mr. Osogi. And he produced it during the procedure, pretending to have found it there in the victim's stomach.
Objection!
Whoa!
What?
Supposition.
Supposition at its best. What possible evidence do you have to support such a rash claim? The evidence, right here. That's the autopsy report. It's explicit in the report, Consul. Other than the ring, nothing unusual was noted internally, so I'm not sure how you intend to prove your point.
That's exactly our point!
You've already done it for me, my lord.
Nothing unusual.
The lack of internal injury says it all.
Yeah.
What?
He would have had an injury.
To swallow a ring of this size would require considerable effort and determination. And in addition to its size, there were sharp claws around the gemstone to contend with. My brother was a determined man, and no brink of death, even more so, I'm sure. He would have stopped at nothing to ensure that evil killer was brought to justice. But if he really did swallow that enormous ring, such as you say, it's inconceivable that no traces of its passage down its throat could have remained as internal trauma. No!
Yep.
Ah.
Yep.
Very well played, Ryunosuke. And there you've arrived at a sticky point. That's precisely what I had my doubts about finding that myself 10 years ago. Then why didn't you say something at the time?
He was told not to, and he was the assistant.
I did. I still remember the conversation I had with Dr. Wilson in the laboratory that day.
Oh my god.
Look at this! Now, this is a very curious thing to find in the man's stomach, wouldn't you say?
Lies.
But isn't that rather peculiar, Dr. Wilson? What's that now, Mikotoba? Well, if you swallowed a ring of that size with those sharp metal claws that it has, surely you'd expect to see damage on the throat and esophagus, torn mucous membranes at the very least.
Yes, it would be.
Dr. Mikotoba, may I remind you that I have vastly more experience than you?
Then why couldn't you find a simple... sorry.
I'm terribly sorry. I can't think of plenty of ways to explain why no injuries would be seen. No, let's say this. The victim would appear to have ingested the item as evidence to identify his assailant. Go ahead, write it down.
Wow.
So I was right. Dr. Wilson was deliberately fabricating the results of the autopsy to implicate my father. That's
Yes.
enough. I'm disappointed, Consul. That argument is nothing more than speculation. What? Dr. Wilson was Britain's leading authority on forensic science and autopsy work. There is no significant scientific basis on which to doubt the man's expert opinion. Pardon the interruption, my lord, but, the damage to the mucous membranes of the throat is easily identified even in living subjects.
Using a device called an endoscope, recently demonstrated in practical use in France. I want one. The government can't pay.
I don't think so, and Dr. Gory, rest assured that your removal of evidence from the stores without permission will not be going unpunished.
Whatever, yo. We open up the dead to find truth.
Ah! I beg your pardon.
But Mama, she chose to stitch her corpses up with all her secrets inside. That's wrong.
Dr. Gory, it's looking as though she's chosen to walk a different path than her mama. Good for her.
She's like, my mom went to jail for being corrupt. I'm going to do something else. Even though I love my mom.
Yes, the ring. What about the ring? I've just remembered something. An earlier incident. What incident? I'm getting to that. The one I encountered to you before. About the memory I have. Of the Genshin Osogi saving my life. What? My father saved your life? It was 10 years ago, on a foggy night in London. Genshin and I were walking down the back streets at a late hour. All of a sudden... Don't make a peep, you're coming with us.
Oh my gosh.
All of our assailants were armed with pistols, their faces obscured by scarves. The next thing I knew, there was silence all around. Genshin lay on the cobbled street. Blood was seeping from his left hand. He shielded me.
Oh my gosh! That was when they stole the ring!
It was on the ring finger of his left hand that he used to wear that ring. Ah! Are you suggesting? I've always believed those thugs were after me. But now I'm starting to question if perhaps it wasn't me that was the intended target after all. Wait, but...
Oh my god.
Genshin was arrested 2 days after that attack. And in that short interval, the decisive evidence needed to indicate him was miraculously found. You mean the ring was stolen from him? You think that those thugs were after him that night?
Maybe they killed...
Objection!
Maybe he killed Maybe the judge killed Van Zeke's brother.
Maybe. You pathetic coward. You expect me to believe that you weren't involved? Think what you want, my Japanese nemesis. It was you, wasn't it? You're the one who took it. Stole my father's ring! You set the whole thing up so that you could paint him as the mass murderer and have him Hang on a second. Kazuma. Open your eyes, man. Ryunosuke. You must know deep down. The truth can be completely obscured even when your judgment is only slightly clouded. But at the moment, you seem to be floundering through a dense fog, my friend. Huh. Is that why you were so insistent I should be present in this trial? To see you like this? But my dad... Well, this is an amusing spectacle. What a grandiose expression on your face, as if you were Lady Justice herself. It seems you're thoroughly convinced yourself of these alleged fabrications of autopsy results. So much so that you're apparently blind to the blatant contradiction that would be born out of it. What? Though it's extremely hard to believe, let us imagine that there was some misconduct during the autopsy. If that were the case, why would Osogi not have disputed the findings in his trial? Oh! In the closed court hearing 10 years ago, the defendant never once denied the claims against him. Isn't that right, Lord Van Zeeks? Yes, that is indeed correct.
He didn't admit to it.
Upon hearing the verdict of guilty, he merely closed his eyes, quietly accepting the judgment.
That's because he knew he was framed.
The actions of a man who has accepted responsibility for his deeds and resigned to his fate. But then...
Oh my! That is very strange. If Mr. Osogi did nothing to oppose the charges against him, then that would surely mean there was no fabricated evidence.
An obvious conclusion at which you should have arrived many minutes ago, Prosecutor Osogi. Your twisted loyalty and clouded judgment are hampering your ability for logical thought.
Or maybe he was threatened, like that other people would die.
I don't know.
Like maybe he thought other people would get killed.
Maybe. Genshin Osogi's silence at this hearing can mean only one thing. There was no fabrication of evidence during the autopsy of his final victim 10 years ago. No! But if that autopsy was all above board, there will be nothing to stop Lord Strongheart bringing this trial to immediate conclusion.
Objection!
What?
Oh.
Thank you, Ryunosuke. If it wasn't for your frank words just now, the trial may very well have ended prematurely. Huh? Kazuma? What's this latest absurdity, Consul? My lord, your reasoning is perfectly sound, but for one giant hole. I beg your pardon. You claim my father's silence was due to the fact that there was no fabricated evidence, but there's another possible explanation. You've overlooked the possibility that he had a reason for maintaining that silence.
Objection!
What? Silence that would lead to him being convicted and sent to his death.
He was protecting someone.
If the autopsy results were an invention, there's no conceivable reason why the man wouldn't have protested.
Objection!
Oh, those results were an invention, all right. There's no question of that. Or are you forgetting that 2 people with a connection to that autopsy have been assassinated? Blah! If I force the grievances I feel from my mind, I start to see you in a very different light. I think perhaps it's you who's been living in delusion these 10 years. Me? What?
Kazuma-sama has created one last chance for us here, Mr. Naruhodo. If we can only show that there was a reason for his father's silence in the trial.
A reason why the man would have said nothing even though he was innocent. Could it have been part of some negotiation, perhaps? Enough rhetoric. The court must be shown evidence. What proof do you have that could possibly explain Osogi's silence in court? Dismissal notice. Chief Warder Daily relieved his post immediately. All rights, pay, and financial benefits are fully revoked. Oh, wow. Aiding and abetting the escape from a prison convict just prior to his execution. Details of this escape are still being investigated. Full cooperation. I mean, jailbreak. That's what I would think.
Maybe, like...
He knew he was going to get out of jail.
Maybe he knew people were going to help him.
Yeah.
But still, like, you would think he would protest a little bit.
Take that!
It's true that Genshin Osogi's silence during this trial resulted in this conviction. If we're wrong, we're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't actually lead to his execution. On the contrary. It led to his escape. An escape that was only possible because he'd been sentenced to death. Although I find it hard to believe my father would have negotiated in that way, the defense is correct. A fake execution, falsified of death certification, and a jailbreak inside a coffin. Clearly such an elaborate plan couldn't have been carried out by my father alone. He must have had the help of a collaborator from the judiciary. I have here the dismissal notice of the chief warder who was working in the prison at the time. The notes read, there are indications that the jailbreak was in planning prior to the inmate's incarceration. In other words, they were suggestions of some sort of negotiation between Mr. Osogi and the British government. In exchange for his silence in court, he was given an assurance that he would be broken out of prison. Yes, with that sort of Kalstein agreement in place, I can imagine he would have kept very quiet. I would go further than that, in fact. I would say that the elaborate jailbreak of Mr. Osogi can be explained in another way. Order! Order! First fabricated evidence, and now a jailbreak conspiracy.
Sorry.
Of course, because it's all intimately linked, Your Honor. The prosecution wishes to summon new witnesses to the stand immediately. Witnesses? That's right. People who can testify about the jailbreak that took place 10 years ago. Ah!
Governor Caden and the poor chief warder of the prison.
I won't allow this turn of trial into a farce. To summon the governor of the prison after all these years. Oh, I wouldn't mind. It wouldn't be any trouble, my lord. What?
Father...
My dear friend may appear a little rattle-pated at times, but I can assure you he's extremely thorough. We wired both the Barclay and the local prison earlier, asking Governor Caden and Mr. Vigil to attend the Old Bailey as a matter of extreme urgency.
Wow.
Mr. Sholmes did that? Are you telling me that? Oh yes, both men are, unless I'm such mistaken, waiting just outside the courtroom at this very moment.
Oh my god.
Whoa!
Whoa.
My lord, you must permit this trial to proceed as you declared it, on the outset. Whatever. You promised that we would stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. I hate you all. Fine, very well. Bring in the witnesses. Make no mistake, I too would like nothing more to lay business to rest once and for all. Somebody's gonna get laid to rest. Oh my gosh, this is still going on. Would the new witnesses state their names and occupations for the court, please? I, Cowden, Governor of Barclay Prison. Everyone calls me Gossip. I sell jaunty little tidbits of, your other persona, if you don't mind. Oh, I do beg your pardon, of course. Sorry?
He forgot he's not wearing his outfit.
My name is Daily Vigil. I used to be the chief warder at the Barclay Prison. The reason why you've been summoned here to court today is to testify about the jailbreak of the so-called professor 10 years ago. Lost the professor? We've already been through all this before, a decade ago. And the conclusion was that there wasn't anything, upward that happened. Well, guess what? A convict escaped from your prison, Governor. Hardly what you would call nothing outward.
Untoward.
Whatever.
No, whatever.
Well...
I'm sorry.
The convict's death certificate was somehow falsified after he was allegedly executed, and he escaped the prison inside his own coffin. A plan of that complexity could never have been carried out without the help of somebody of influence inside the prison. Governor Caden, don't imagine that the passage of time will afford you any protection. But the statute of limitations. Too bad, so sad. If it turns out that you were involved in a plot to break out Mr. Osogi from prison, then of course, the consequences will be very serious. In all likelihood, a capital punishment. Gosh! Hold on there, laddie. Oh. Witness, Governor? Yes, sir. You have a critical role to play in the public safety of our country. A great responsibility to shoulder. The significance of your testimony in court cannot be understated. Therefore, think carefully before you speak. And Prosecutor Osogi, if you threaten the witness again, you will be held in contempt of court.
Whatevs.
My apologies, my lord. There's no disputing the fact that an intricate jailbreak plot was enacted 10 years ago. Clearly you were both involved in some way. So you'll testify before the court now and explain exactly what took place. Very well, let the witnesses give their formal testimony. Tell the court everything you know of the plot to break out Osogi from the prison 10 years ago. Whoa, so much stuff. Okay. The jailbreak plot. It was the day the Japanese jock was found guilty. The directive came from the prosecutor's office. I assigned the convict to the chief warder and put the plan into action behind the scenes. I was responsible for Mr. Osogi right up until the night of his execution, but I knew nothing of any plot. I don't care if there was some negotiations between the convict and the prosecutor's office. All I did was carry out my duty for Her Majesty's Great British Empire.
Everybody can be so corrupt and for just their duty.
A directive from the prosecutor's office? Are you saying that the jailbreak was a plot? Aye, that's right. Who sent it? Who authorized the plan? I don't know. I don't know nothing. You're saying you don't know? Listen, there was...
Sorry. I'm sorry. I'll be right back.
Okay. Listen, there was nothing to think about the professor's case that was unusual in some way. Did he ask... He didn't ask any questions, he just did what he was told. Nothing more than that, I could tell you. I see. But if the jailbreak plan originated from the prosecutor's office, then one thing is very clear. As suspected, there were different dealings going on between Mr. Osogi and that office. The jailbreak was promised in exchange for Mr. Osogi admitting to the crimes that he didn't commit.
Whoa.
That, counsel, is nothing more than speculation on your part. So, let me ask the defense. Yes, what is it, my lord? I fail to see how these witnesses have any more information here. Pertinent. Do you intend to assert your right to cross-examination? Oh yeah, absolutely. I have no intention of squandering a single opportunity, my lord. It seems all you Japanese are fiercely tenacious. Fine. Very well. Proceed, counsel.
Did he just generalize all Japanese people?
Yep.
Wow.
Jailbreak plot. It was the day the Japanese jock was found guilty.
Hold it!
Alright. And you say that you don't know who usually issued the, thing? Aye. That's right. All I can be sure of is that it was the office. But if it was from the prosecutor's office, that narrows it down to who could have issued it straight away. It wasn't me, I can tell you that. I cannot say for certainty. It did originate from the prosecutor's office, though. What? There's no telling where it started. There's a fat chance it came from higher up the ladder. Basically. I cannot give you any indication of who's behind it. You can't be serious.
All we can say for sure is that the order must have come from somebody in authority, I suppose.
The likes of us on the ground, as it were, didn't bother with speculation. We just did our job.
Well, maybe we should see how many people work for the prosecutor's office then, and call all of them to the stand, all 20 of them or whatever.
So, Mr. Vigil, you don't know anything at all? That's right. My only role in the scheme was a scapegoat. That's right, isn't it, Governor? Oh, some poor beggar had to take the rap for it. I'm sorry.
Wow.
All right, then. Who else did know about the plan?
Wow.
I've no first idea, laddie. My part in the whole business was basically just dealing with the aftermath. But I would rather be surprised if there was other folk in the prison service who'd have given similar orders. So you don't know who else was involved? That's what I just said. Aye, that's right. All I can tell you is that the night it actually happened, the person at the reins was Dr. Stevens. Dr. Courtney Stevens? Oh, Dr. Scythe. Why did I have to get caught up in such a terrible business? Wrong place at the wrong time, man.
They always find an innocent person or an honest person to take down. Like, that's because you were too honest.
Did you notice anything unusual happening in the lead-up to that night? Oh, everything was unusual, yes. Exception after exception. After all, it was Professor. The man had terrorized the country as never before with his crimes. In order to hide his identity, he was forced to wear an iron mask over his head.
Are you okay?
There's something wrong with my jaw. Okay. Oh, yeah, it is. Cat hair in my mouth. Hideous treatment. The fellow was surprisingly docile for someone who'd have taken the lives of 5 of the country's nobles. Being the chief warder, I was the only person permitted to approach his cell. I can hardly believe it was duped by my own country. I believe you jumped from the window of the governor's office when the jailbreak was blamed on you, didn't you? Losh, Vigil, I cannot apologize enough for that.
Wow.
No, Governor, I don't believe you can. I won't change what happened.
Wow, you ruined the guy's life, you jerk.
And what else can you tell us about the situation, Governor? What's his name, Amber?
Governor Caden?
Okay. I don't know. There was some other negotiations between the But you already acknowledged that the orders came from the prosecutor's office to arrange for the man's escape. There must be some sort of negotiation. It's the only explanation. Aye, well, be that as it may, I don't know nothing about it. The witness stand is no place for telling what you don't know for sure. I know that much. Then I presume you also know this. No, not telling what you know is a criminal offense. So you were just following orders, is that it? I'm afraid that won't absolve you of guilt here. A man was still killed illegally, even if he was condemned criminal. You may very well be found complicit in murder, Governor. So what is it? Even with the threat of conviction, you won't break your silence? All I did was carry out my duty for Her Majesty's the Great British Empire. Okay.
Hold it.
Did you carry out the plan in its entirety? I did everything I could at the time. As you know, Genshin Osogi was shot in the Lowgate Cemetery after the escape. Tell me, was that part of the plan too?
No.
My instructions were to do with it getting the jock out of the jail and nothing more. I cannot tell you anything else about what happened after that. Only, personally, I believe his death was the last part of the plan.
Oh my gosh.
Excuse me.
Mr. Vigil, is something wrong? Oh. Yes, sir. What can I do for you, sir? He's saluting now. What is it? Some sort of Barclay convention? What Governor Caden was just saying seemed to upset you. Did it bring something to mind, perhaps? For the last 10 years, I've completely blotted out the memories of that time from my mind. I was betrayed by my superiors in the name of my country. I'm really sorry. Just as my father was betrayed, it seems. But you see, thinking back now, I really can't imagine that shooting Mr. Osogi in the cemetery was ever part of the plan. What makes you think that?
Because I think he was supposed to escape.
It just doesn't make sense, does it? To make the man admit to his crimes he didn't commit with the promise of a jailbreak only to kill him in the end. That's treachery of the worst kind. But the point is, if the intention was always to betray him, well, why would there be any need for all the...
Chinasseries or chicaneries?
Whatever. What would be the need for all the conspiracies of his escape? Ah!
Yes, that's quite true. Yeah, like, why would they go to such lengths to get him out of there if they were just gonna kill him?
If whoever negotiated with Osogi never intended to keep his or her end of the bargain, it would have been far simpler just to let the man be executed in the prison as dictated by his sentence.
Yeah.
It all happened in that vast chamber of secrets that is Barclay, behind high prison walls. I suppose nobody knows what really went on in the execution room now. Yes, it's an unsettling mystery, certainly.
Does he know something?
Truth be told, there is a wee matter that's never quite made sense to me.
Oh my gosh.
If you believe there was some kind of negotiations between the jailbreak and Mr. Osogi's and a body at the top, it doesn't quite add up, does it? Governor Caden, I must insist that you explain these doubts that you have. By amending your formal testimony. Gents. Alright then. It seems to me that the Japanese fella didn't have nothing to bargain with.
Hold it!
Admitting to the crimes that was just what he had to do, bargain with Shirley. Something. I cannot see that myself. After all, did the prosecution have conclusive evidence against Charlie or whatever? This, you mean, discovered during the final victim's autopsy? There's every possibility this conclusive evidence was fabricated by Scotland Yard and the prosecutor's office.
Objection!
Possibilities are all very well, but nothing has been proven. You can holler about misconducts in the trial 10 years ago all you like. But if you can't establish that it happened with hard evidence, no one's going to listen. Aye, that's right. So what I'm saying is, the convict had nothing he could use for any kind of bargaining at all. The witness makes an astute point. Logically, it would seem no negotiation could have taken place. And yet the plan to break the man out of prison was definitely put into practice. So he must have been armed with something that gave him an angle to negotiate. So as Osogi-san agreed to confess to the crimes because he was assured he'd be broken out of prison later.
Oh, I really don't think that Kazuma-sama's father would have engaged in such negotiations, though.
Then perhaps something compelled him to agree.
What a terrible thing, using the law to legitimize such underhanded dealings with a desperate man. Only to double-cross him in the end. It's quite the opposite of justice.
Yeah, it is. I can't help feeling that there's something about this apparent negotiation that doesn't quite add up.
Something doesn't quite add up, Mr. Naruhodo?
No, it doesn't. But I can't quite put my finger on it just yet.
Well, in that case, we must keep digging until we identify the problem.
Alright, there's something about that fifth statement.
It was the day the Japanese jock was found guilty. The director came from the prosecutor office.
We do have something from the prison.
And then it seemed to me the Japanese fellow didn't have nothing to do with bargain with. What did he bargain with?
He was writing something in his cell, remember? I think that's what is... There, the Osogi papers.
Oh my gosh. Ooh, oh my gosh, Luke!
I think...
Kazuma hasn't seen the Osogi papers, I don't think.
Oh, that's true. You're right.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 strikes, so how can it hurt?
Objection.
Confessing under oath to murders he didn't commit on a verbal assurance of later being broken out of prison. Genshin Osogi was taking an incredibly risky gamble. Very true. There was nothing to stop the British breaking their word and executing him behind closed doors anyway. Under normal circumstances, no man would stake his life on a gentleman's agreement like that. Which means that Mr. Osogi must have had a trump card. Something that guaranteed he wouldn't be betrayed. Some kind of weapon. Obvious, that fellow couldn't have possibly had nothing like that. But you know that he did, Governor. The Osogi Papers, the name given to the last will and testament of Mr. Genshin Osogi. Oh! It turns out that Mr. Osogi was hiding his will in his cell at Barclay. Chief Warder Vigil caught him with it one day. You squealed, didn't you, you rat? Did I not tell you to keep that a secret?
He didn't squeal.
You can't touch me now! Ah! When Mr. Vigil, caught sight of what... dang it. When Vigil caught sight of that will through the bars of the convict cell, Mr. Osogi pleaded with the warder. All right then, but that's... what's on that paper? A last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now. A weapon? And after the convict had been killed following the elaborate pretense of the jailbreak, that document mysteriously disappeared, didn't it? Well, yes. All the prison warders searched through the belongings in his cell, but... well, that will was just nowhere to be found. As I understand it, an exhaustive search was made for the document, which became known as the Osogi Papers. Governor Caden, I believe you ordered the prison staff to find it at all costs, didn't you? Would I be right in saying that you knew? You knew that the so-called Osogi Papers had the potential to make great waves somehow? What blazes are you blathering about? The will was found right and proper. In the fella's cell where I said it would be. But how can that be? Where? In his cell? We all searched the place from top to bottom. Well, you do a proper job, you pilly-wally gahoot.
Wow.
You can't criticize me now.
Yeah, you fired
I
him.
showed it to you before, did I not? You're no lawyer.
Nope, he didn't.
Yeah, yes you did. I have the document here. It was written in Japanese and reads, The Last Will and Testament of Genshin Osogi. Which means everything is as it should be. Not quite, my lord. You see, there's an undeniable inconsistency here. What? What inconsistency? Well, Mr. Osogi described this document as only the weapon he had left. And yet, this will contains nothing of significance at all. Nothing that would have given the convict any leverage. Are you yeah, dang it. Are you suggesting, my learned friend, that the last will and testimony stored by the prison all these years is actually a fake?
Oh my gosh. There's another one.
As has clearly been demonstrated already, what went on at Barclay Prison was far from above board. That last vilification by the defense was an affront to the entire British legal system. This absurd notion of a weapon is something for which we have only former Chief Warder's word. The man could quite easily be lying, or at the very least sorely mistaken. What? No! I definitely heard him say that, I swear. Clearly we need to get to the bottom of this. We need to know exactly what happened with these so-called Osogi papers. A waste of time. If the will was fake, where's the real document?
Objection.
Mr. Vigil was stabbed in the back by the judiciary 10 years ago. He lost everything, very nearly his own life. Oh. And now you're going to do it again. You're ready to brand him a liar and turn your back on him without even letting him defend himself. It's clear that Balcray Prison is hiding something. You got this.
It's clear that the jailbreak is masterminded by someone in the Bursafe's office. It's clear that some illicit negotiations have gone on. Your lordship could understand for this.
What did you say?
We should hear more from the chief warder. Testify! Testify! The trial must go on! The man's voice must be heard.
It would seem the vocal few here are utterly blind to the truth. Very well, then. Let the witnesses testify again. Tell the court precisely what you think you saw of the convict's last will and testimony. Yes, sir, my lord.
Oh my gosh. Luke, this is too stressful for me.
It's really interesting. The Osogi papers. As the warder responsible for the condemned convicts attended to Mr. Osogi's and kept watch over his cell. The night after he was found guilty in court, he was doing something that will in his cell. We turned the cell inside out looking for it after the execution, but to no avail. I only found out about the Osogi papers when a directive came telling me to impound them. The document was in the folds of the fellow's robe that was left in his cell. A kimono, I think it's called.
Maybe their papers are still in the cell now.
In his kimono? That's a lie. We searched every inch of the man's cell. We looked through all his clothes. It can't be true. Are you not satisfied with calling me a liar once, eh? You waffling winger. Ha! There's nothing you can do now. You don't have any hold over me anymore. Other than the hold you like to take on my cavret, of course. Is that what you're going to be doing, is it? Are you going to give me a good shake again? Or are you too scared?
Abuse.
Little and large, what a double act. We compiled with Osogi's will far as was possible. All of his personal effects were delivered to his family home in Japan. As a courtesy to the homeland of most notorious killer our country has ever seen. And we were much obliged. I can confirm that all my father's belongings arrived safely. Aye, and you cannot deny the handwriting is that of your old man, eh? Yes, there's no mistaking that it's my father's brushwork.
He was forced to
Really?
write it.
And this last will and testimony was the man's weapon, was it? I think we can safely assume that the convict was merely prattling, knowing that his end was nigh.
What a jerk. I will come and stab you through the throat, Strongheart.
So, counsel for the defense, your cross-examination, please.
Oh my god.
Yes, my lord.
Sorry, it was a little violent there. Getting a little
Cross-examination. The Osogi papers. As the warder responsible for the condemned convicts, I don't want to read again.
Hold it!
So would that mean you converse with Mr. Osogi? Yes, I certainly... Though there was precious little time before his execution was due. He was remarkably calm considering his days were very much numbered. In all honesty, he really didn't strike one as a man capable of mass murder. Yet he confessed in full to the crimes. I know. That's why I felt compelled to ask him one day. I can still recall his reply. I'm guilty of unforgivable crime of ending another human's life, yes. But he was so tranquil and intelligent, it put me in the mind of an Eastern holy man.
Maybe he meant his own life.
And what about the will you saw him with? What can you tell us about that? Well, it was the beginning of all the drama. I remember it very well, yes. Ow. The night after he was found guilty in the court, he was doing something with that will in his cell.
He was probably trying to put it... Maybe it's in the wall.
And he pleaded with you not to report him, did he? Yes, that's right. And like the bottom you are, telling me a blatant breach of trust, what was? I could see that the man had noble spirit. I found myself wanting to treat him accordingly.
But according to what you told us 2 days ago, the convict had been strictly forbidden from having any writing materials whatsoever.
Yes, you're quite right. Ah, so when exactly was the will penned? That was before the man was remanded in Barclay, obviously. Yes, at the prosecutor's office under supervision of the relevant authorities. I personally instructed Osogi to make a will for the benefit of his family in his homeland. In that case, why was it found in his cell? What do you mean by that? Well, if that was penned at the prosecutor's office, you would have expected that it would remain there for safekeeping, surely. Oh! It's curious. There doesn't seem to be any obvious explanation for why it was subsequently found in the convict's cell. Well, the defense makes an astute point. Well, Governor? A prison governor cannot be expected to ken the inner workings of the prosecutor's office. In that case, Lord Strongheart, perhaps you can shed some light on the matter.
I was thinking invisible ink also, Dr. Clue.
I'm unable to explain any explanation here and now.
Uh-huh.
I would have to consult with a notary responsible for the will at the time. Oh my gosh.
We all agree with Majel if he says, grab his unicorn gavel and use its horn to stab him in his neck.
Wow. The fact that my
Yes.
father's will was discovered in his cell is clearly inconsistent with what was expected. I want to know why. Another inexplicable mystery, huh? Well, the thing is about that will... We turned the cell inside out looking for it after the execution, but to no avail.
Hold it!
Ah... It was the governor who ordered the search for the will, as I understand it. Is that right? Yes. And when I reported back that he couldn't find it, he grabbed me by the neck and he yelled, "I cannot have disappeared completely in my face!" Aye, well, it's done to the governor to keep everybody working as hard as they should be.
I think the governor needs a wee taste of his own medicine, Mr. Naruhodo. Susato, take down!
The point is, it was clearly considered a very important document, wasn't it? But it proved impossible to find. Yes, that's right. Then before I knew it, it was in the morning paper. That blood-curdling article. The executed mass murderer who'd risen from the dead.
Oh, you mean...
The article based on Mr. Drebber's experience in Lowgate Cemetery. Yes, that's what it was. The day after I read the news, I was summoned to the governor's office. And that's when the awful accusation was made. That you aided Genshin Osogi's escape from the prison, resulting in your immediate dismissal. I'm afraid I really don't remember anything after that. I'm sorry.
Blanked out. You jerk! You ruined his life!
At the governor's prison, I had no choice. I could have done anything else.
What a jerk.
Yeah, because you were... It was from... Oh my gosh.
I know, she clawed her little eye.
Zelda, you're bleeding.
Yep. She's all her eye's all messed up.
Zelda, you need to stop doing that. I only found out about the Osogi papers when a directive came telling me to impound them.
Hold it!
And the directive came from the same source as the one instructing you about the jailbreak. Aye. From the top levels of the prosecutor's office it was. What name was on it? I didn't know. I don't know. I think that's what he said. I don't know. All I can tell you is that my orders were to do everything in my power to find the document. The directive said that it was somewhere inside the fellow's cell. The document. Well, was that the wording the document, not the will? Aye, that's what it said. Am I clutching at straws here? I was just wondering if it was really Genshin Osogi's last will and testimony that the sender of that directive was after. Continue with your testimony then, witness. Whoa, easy though. The document was in the folds of the fellow's robe that was left in his cell. A kimono, I think it's called.
That guy says it wasn't, though. So that means somebody planted it there. That means somebody... Maybe he found it, but the other guy said that it wasn't there. So that means that between the times they both looked for it, somebody planted it there.
Exactly. In Mr. Osogi's kimono? Aye, the only thing he brought with him when he was locked up. Yes, he was permitted to have his personal effects with him during his incarceration. Incarceration, I understand. That's right. He was granted as much freedom as possible during the few days before his execution. Indeed, he had a number of items of personal significance, I remember. He was very reluctant to part with them. Some books, that kimono, his sword... His sword?! Kuroma, the famous sword of the Osogi clan. It bears the soul of my family. I don't doubt it, but I wasn't really getting at that. Forget it. Being the soul of the clan, could the man have had a more obvious weapon? Have some respect, Ryunosuke. Respectful silence.
Oh my gosh, Lou.
The warders carry firearms at all times, and the inmates have shackles around their ankles. He couldn't have hurt nobody with that thing.
Yeah, right.
He's a samurai. I doubt it.
He could have, like, taken down the entire
He was
prison.
allowed a sword, but no writing materials? Alright. He wrote that letter before he came to the prison.
So he said it's his only weapon.
Dr. Mikotoba was asked to bring the necessary Japanese writing implements at the prosecutor's office.
Suzuri inkstone, black sumi ink, and some hanshi rice paper, no doubt.
I was present when he wrote it, but I'm sorry to say, the letters, they just look like scribblings. Oh.
Masses of earthworms. Oh my gosh.
Are you feeling faint again, Mr. Vigil? Oh. Mr. Vigil! Sir! It was Scarlet, sir. What? What? Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I didn't mean to blurt it out like that.
What was Scarlet? The ink was Scarlet. Maybe the ink was red.
Less swaying and more explaining would be helpful.
Maybe the ink was red. Is it something about the testimony we just heard? Have you recalled something of importance?
Hello, kitty. Something of importance?
People want to know if Zelda's okay.
Possibly, or possibly not.
I'm unable to tell which way he's leaning, I'm afraid.
Me too. My lord, the defense asks that Mr. Vigil be permitted to supplement his testimony again, with this possibly or possibly not important detail. Permission granted. Go ahead, Mr. Vigil. Yes, it was Scarlet. Who?
Scarlet.
As I remember, the document was written in Scarlet ink, but perhaps I'm mistaken.
He wrote it in... Yes, Struggle! I think he wrote it in his own blood. Yes, I think that happened.
Scarlet, you say?
Red ink. They didn't give him any ink.
Well, yes, I mean, I only caught sight of it for a brief moment, of course. But even the dim light in the cell, I remember thinking that it was an unusual color. At the very least, I'm quite sure it wasn't black.
Oh! No!
He used his own blood.
He used his own blood to write it somewhere.
Witness! Is that really what you saw?
Yep.
What? Sir, yes! What? Is something wrong, Lord Strongheart?
He's getting scared now.
I apologize. Continue.
What do you make of that, Mr. Naruhodou? For Lord Strongheart to be visibly shaken in that way.
He's guilty. Oh, do you know, Ava, you can plainly see here written here, it's in black as though it was Hal's waistcoat.
Well, yes, you're right.
Mr. Vigil, I'd like to confirm one point with you, please. Did you actually see the content of the document that Mr. Osogi was holding that night?
Oh, well, no. I mean, there was no time. As soon as he noticed me there, he hid it behind his back.
But it was definitely a will, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. That's what Mr. Osogi told me.
The court need waste no further time on this matter. We have the will in question in our possession. There's nothing more to add.
A will written in scarlet ink. What did Mr. Vigil really see Kazuma's father holding, I wonder?
If you have an inkling, Mr. Naruhodo, you must present it to the court at once. An inkling. Well, I mean, how would he... I mean, you could have cut yourself on almost anything in the prison. There's probably a lot of rusty stuff. You just cut yourself... I mean, he had his sword. He could easily cut himself with his sword and then use the blood. This is, like, so gross. I think he somehow hid it in his sword. I don't know why, because he knew his sword would go back to Kazuma.
Testament, it doesn't give much away.
Maybe there was a way he hid it in the scabbard of his sword or something. I don't know. So this was really penned by Kazuma-sama's father. I wonder if he could possibly have meant when he described it as a weapon. Maybe he put it in one of the books.
It's starting to sound very much like Mr. Osogi actually had nothing.
But the plan to break him out of jail went ahead, which means he must have had some bargaining power. He must have been hiding something. It's the only explanation that makes sense.
It's starting to sound like Mr. Osogi might actually have had something.
Maybe there was some way he got it out.
This might be far-fetched, but is it possible if he had all his effects, did he have his ring back? He could have used the ring to prick his finger and write using his own blood.
Well, yeah, but I mean, where did he write it, though?
I don't know. I'm not sure, but I feel as though I'm on the brink of understanding all this.
Let's listen to all the information again and see what we can learn. I'm going to try presenting the ring on the last statement.
People are asking us to try to look at some of his effects. Absolutely! The sword, the ring, examine stuff.
Alright, well, let's go to statement number 5.
Yeah, but why would they give him his ring back if it was found in the victim's stomach, supposedly?
I don't know. As I remember, the document was written in scarlet, but perhaps I'm mistaken.
Oh, awesome! You're flying to Mexico? That's great, Dana's Game Reviews. I need reread the autopsy, says Ronan. Try looking at the autopsy again. Look at the sword, question mark?
Well, we can look at the sword. We have a lot of, Wait, where is the sword?
Maybe we can contact Sholmes. Didn't we say if we reach a dead end?
Korama, the great blade. It's such a thing of beauty. I want to gaze at it for hours.
There, look at what's wrapped around it. The red.
The red is Kazuma's headband.
Oh. Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to find anything.
All we see is the tip of the sword that he broke.
The tip of the great sword, broken. It's such a shame. It's been so meticulously cared for all these years.
I wonder if you can fix that.
I can almost hear Kuruma's sobs. Kazuma must have really taken a swing for that to happen.
Yeah.
Can we look inside the sheath? No.
Oh, you can't look inside the sheath.
Is there anything hidden in the hilt of the sword? No.
No, there's like nothing.
Okay,
there.
so there's nothing with the sword.
We should also look at the autopsy again.
The autopsy for Clint?
If you want to examine the ring. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. That's what people keep saying.
I mean, I don't really see how the autopsy would be something we would need to present, but okay.
Well, let's...
Anything else? There's some weird marks here, but...
Okay.
I don't see anything else inside the ring. Telegram from Japan. Osogi papers.
Man, Osogi was really screwed by these people. He should have just spoken up and not trusted them. It's hard to know what to do in that situation when everyone's against you.
No internal trauma noted anywhere in the body. I mean, I don't really see how the autopsy of Clint would really do anything with that conversation.
I don't know.
Oh.
Unless I remember the document was written as Scarlet, perhaps I'm mistaken. Well, what would it possibly be?
I don't know. Let's try the autopsy and then I'm gonna try the ring. I don't know why it would be the autopsy, but people in the chat seem to think it's autopsy, so...
I don't know.
Scarlet-colored writing, is that what you said? You thought you saw, Mr. Vigil? And I believe that's exactly what you did see. What? That was again, you've no evidence to say that. Actually, I have a look at this report. That's my brother's autopsy report. Yes, and there's something in here that's bothered me since I first read it. It states that scarlet-colored ink stains were noted on the fingers of the victim's right hand. Yes, so it does. Scarlet ink? Oh, I see. Okay. Scarlet ink?
I don't understand.
Well, way to go, chat. Now I didn't know, so I mean, I was going to present the ring, but...
What? I don't understand what's going on.
The autopsy notes that the fingers had scarlet ink on them. So I think the brother was the one who penned the, Clint's brother was the one who wrote the will and testimony, the original one. That's what, I'm guessing that's what it means. Now, I'm not familiar with the habits of the British aristocracy, I freely admit it, but I would hazard a guess that they don't go all around with ink stains on their fingertips, do they? Your wit is not appreciated. My brother was a well-bred and, fastidious man. Should ink have sullied his fingertips, he would have cleaned them immediately. What is your point, Consul? Well, my point is this. Whatever Lord Clint was writing in that unusually colored ink, it must have been directly before his death, because he died before he had the opportunity to clean his hand. What? I remember something troubled me at the time. At the scene, the lid of my brother's inkwell was open. Huh?
Oh my gosh.
But Clint was punctilious about such things. It seemed unusual. And no document penned in the color of the ink that was in the inkwell was ever found. So the document had disappeared. Are you suggesting that the document my father had in his hand that night in his cell was the same document that Lord Clint was writing moments before his death? Then, it was... If Mr. Vigil's testimony is to be believed, it can only mean that yes, Mr. Vigil... Yes! When you spotted Mr. Osogi with the document in his cell, his precise words were as follows, were they not? Alright then, but what's that on the paper? A last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now. A last will and testament? It was Clint's will. In the conversation, if it really did go as you said, Mr. Vigil, then what we know completely changes the meaning of what Mr. Osogi said. You really think? Mr. Vigil did indeed see the convict with a will, but it wasn't that of Genshin Osogi. It was the last will and testimony of Lord Clint Van Zeeks. No! What?
I'm so confused.
Objection!
This is madness. My brother's last will and testimony. That would mean that he had chosen to die. That is what it would mean, yes. No, impossible. That is utterly out of the question.
Lord Van Zeeks!
Clint was pursuing the professor. It consumed him day and night. Whatever happened, he would never have abandoned his investigation before its conclusion. Never! He would have rested until the job was done, until the killer was caught. The idea that he would willingly accept his own death, it's obscene.
Objection!
And yet, we can be sure that he was writing his will in moments before his death. And that Genshin Osogi came to be in possession of that document. So, what could the will possibly have contained? The identity of the real killer. Clearly something that couldn't be made under public Clearly something the public couldn't know about in any Clearly something that couldn't be made public under any circumstances whatsoever. Because armed with that document, my father was able to negotiate with the judiciary for his life. It was something so damning that it prompted the powers that be to enact a daring jailbreak plot. Yes, there can be no question that will contained information of the utmost secrecy. Information of the utmost secrecy. Ha! No, it couldn't be!
What information? I don't know.
I've heard more than enough. Pursuing the notion of a phantom where nobody can attest to having seen serves absolutely no purpose.
Check your unicorn gavel.
No, my lord. That's unacceptable. What did you say, Consul? The last will and testimony that Genshin Osogi had in his possession was that of Lord Clint's. All the testimony and evidence presented at the court has logically led to us to that possibility. We have a duty to pursue the line of reasoning to its conclusion. But with no possible means of knowing the contents of the document, there is no line of reasoning to pursue. What?
How could we find the document?
The only thing that Osogi had in his possession was his kimono and his sword. But it didn't look like the sword hilt was damaged, so I don't know where the document could be hidden.
That red thing was wrapped around it. It could have been wrapped around paper.
But I thought that was his headband, honey.
But he could have
Okay,
two.
we'll examine the sword again. A reason why Lord Clint, a man of high noble standing, would have chosen death. Information so secret people in the judiciary would be willing to negotiate the jailbreak of a condemned killer. The only explanation that fits those facts is an unthinkable truth that turns absolutely everything on its head.
Aliens?
No,
Oh.
but it's just too hideous.
Mr. Naruhodo! I don't know what's going on. However difficult the situation might become, you work with your client to pursue the truth. That's what you resolved to do when you entered the courtroom this morning, if I'm not mistaken.
Miss Susie.
Yes? So hold your head high and keep soldiering on,
Right.
or I'll destroy you with a Susato takedown.
Yes, you're right, Susie. All right. 10 years ago, in his final moments, Lord Clint left behind a will. A will that Genshin Osogi was able to use as a weapon to negotiate his escape from prison. In all probability, the details in the will were related to the Professor case. The defense's last statement is mere conjecture. What are you getting at, man? Ryunosuke?
Where is it? Where's the will?
As soon as these words come out of my mouth, there's no going back.
Oh, jeez. Don't do it.
I believe that the last will and testimony of Lord Clint was, in fact, an accusation. Obviously, it must have been an accusation. An accusation? Yes, revealing the true identity of the Professor. Which would explain why Osogi took it, since it was he who was implicated by the document.
Objection.
No. In that case, the will wouldn't have been given to Mr. Osogi as a bargaining power at all. Then you're suggesting the accusation was against some other person?
Objection.
As the...
No. If that were the
Professor.
case, the two men would surely have collaborated to pursue the culprit together. Then your whole argument falls down. Ah! Dang it. Oh, can I object to the penalty too? It's apparent that the defense's explanation has no real substance. That line of inquiry is dead. Come on, Ryunosuke, I know you! You've seen to the heart of all of this, haven't you?
Oh my gosh. Somebody in the chat says it's an admission.
A reason why Lord Clint, a man of high noble standing, would have chosen death.
He was the professor.
What?
Maybe.
The only explanation is unthinkable
Maybe
truth.
Clint's brother was the professor.
Oh my gosh. It's just too hideous.
Mr. Naruhodo! However difficult the situation might become, you work with your client in the pursuit of the truth. That's what you resolved to do when you entered the courtroom this morning, if I'm not mistaken.
Miss Susie.
So hold your head high and keep soldiering on.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so it's a confession then. 10 years ago, blah 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 blah. Not saying this again. In a probability, the defense's last statement is mere conjecture. What are you getting at, man? Ryunosuke. As soon as these words come out of my mouth, there's no going back. I believe the last will and testimony is a confession.
Oh my gosh. You can do this, Mr. Naruhodo! You can do it!
I believe that Lord Clint Van Zeeks was actually penned that day was a confession. A confession? Regarding the mass murderer known as the Professor. And this true identity.
Objection!
Enough, Consul! What are you saying? Do you even realize? A confession about the true identity of the Professor. That would mean... Lord Van Zeeks, I appreciate this must be hard to take in. But it's the only explanation that fits. No! The killer that terrorized London a decade ago became known as the Professor. The man believed to have murdered 5 members of the royalty wasn't Genshin Osogi at all.
Oh my
No,
gosh.
you can't be suggesting. It was in fact the man believed to have been the 5th victim. Lord Clint Van Zeeks himself! Yeah! No!
Oh my gosh. His brother may have been taking people out vigilante style.
It's finally open, isn't it? Pandora's box.
Oh my gosh.
The great Van Zeeks family. They've been thoroughbreds as the British judiciary for years. And Lord Clint Van Zeeks, he was a paragon of justice. But what actually, he was a mass murderer? What? The vilest of natures. In general, the public ever found out, the country would be finished. No, this can't be true. My brother.
Oh, this is too awful! Poor Lord Van Zeeks!
I wonder, though, did he never suspect?
Mr. Naruhodo?
Lord Barrack Von Zeeks is a brilliant prosecutor. Is it conceivable that he didn't realize what his older brother really was up to?
I don't think he did.
Order! Order in the court!
You can't see it if it's close to you.
Lord Van Zeeks. The professor made use of an enormous hound as his murder weapon. Tell me, did your brother own a dog?
Oh my gosh, he did.
Yes.
Oh!
My brother had a dog.
Oh my gosh.
The dog was well-known hunting dog. People called him a giant.
Oh my gosh.
I don't believe this. When my brother would go hunting in the forest of the grounds behind the house, he was always took the dog. After Clint's death, the creature passed away too, almost as if he were following his master.
Maybe they killed the dog.
He was magnificent hunting dog, worthy of the jewel-studded collar around his neck. The speckled band! The collar that was found on the ship! It's the dog's! Oh my gosh.
I don't understand.
This all ties into... Oh my gosh, it's all tied into the... How did they do this? How did they write this? A jewel-studded collar? That's right. Though sadly, some years ago now, it was stolen by a thief who broke into the house one night. A jewel-studded collar? Stolen by a thief? It so happens that myself and my colleagues have come across such a collar during our time in London. How could you?
There was an old emblem attached to the collar too, made of pure gold. Oh, and had blood all over it. They killed the dog in the collar. It was topped with a small crown and bore an ornate capital letter B.
What?
Balmung.
An emblem bearing the initial B. That's my family.
Oh my! You know it? That's the name of the dog.
It's the insignia of the Baskerville family.
Oh!
What? The Baskerville? Why is that name coming up now? Baskerville is the family name of my late brother's widow. That pure gold emblem was an heirloom which Clint acquired upon their marriage. There can be no doubt then. The collar you have described was Balmung's.
The family insignia of Lord Clint Van Zeke's widow.
There was a considerable amount of blood on the collar when we saw it. Since we know the dog was used for hunting, it could have been from its quarry, of course. But it could equally have been from human prey. So it's true then. Clint Van Zeeks really was the professor. Impossible! These Japanese are making it an elaborate... So in fact, the person responsible for these murders of the nobles and royals was a noble himself. And that threatened to be an enormous scandal that would irrevocably destabilize the British society. My father knew that, and was using it to negotiate his way out of an unjust charge against him. But at the very last hour, those he'd bargained with betrayed him, slaying him mercilessly on foreign soil.
Oh my gosh.
Well, can you deny it, Lord Strongheart?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
10 years have passed, and still now the 6 million inhabitants of our great capital rest easy believing that justice was done. That though this anomaly remains, the diabolical murder was caught and executed. Very well then, you may have the truth. Tell me then, tell me what Clint really was. Lord Clint was too pure of heart. When he became a prosecutor and went in pursuit of black roots of crime, he drove himself into a corner. He came to an uncomfortable realization that to fight the most fiendish of criminals requires one to become even more fiendish oneself.
He was fighting criminals.
Clint.
He shouldn't have taken the law into his own hands.
He became a vigilante.
Ooh, I feel weird.
Yep.
This doesn't feel right.
The 19th century was truly a miraculous 100 years for Great Britain, and indeed the whole world. New industry, new technology, and with the birth of the Metropolitan Police Service, new law and order. But these dazzling new developments meant even deeper shadows were cast on society. Water sullied by factories, air thick with noxious fumes and crime, growing daily to fill the darkness. Lord Clint Van Zeeks made it at his mission to combat that darkness, but as time went on, it slowly ate at his soul until eventually he was consumed. So he fell into the abyss. It's ironic, really, and somewhat surprising that the truth was once again been unearthed by a Japanese. Once again? What do you mean? 10 years ago, your father, Genshin Osogi, turned up at my office one night. The professor! The professor? Yes, beyond all doubt. You must issue a warrant to search his home at once. Don't be absurd. The man confessed. The man comes from one of our country's most illustrious families. He's a paragon of justice here in the capital. Yes, that's the point. That's why none of you British can see it. He's using his noble status as a diversion, whilst he commits these atrocities crimes behind the scenes. Do you have any evidence?
Oh my gosh. Osogi's the one.
Nothing definitive as of yet, no. But he keeps an enormous savage hound on the estate. We need the full support of the judiciary for this. We're up against a member of the aristocracy. So large family estate has a fierce guard dog. You should know that's commonplace here in Britain. I'm sorry, but I can't possibly put Scotland Yard onto this based on tenuous accusations of a visiting student. Ah!
Oh my gosh.
He was set up.
So then they set him up.
So I turned down Osogi's plea. And as a result, he took it upon himself to visit the Von Zeke's mansion on his own. We can only imagine now what happened between the two men. Though we know the outcome of the course, Lord Clint perished. I don't believe these.
Maybe Lord Clint killed himself.
I think he got into a fight.
I think he killed Clint.
Maybe he did self-defense.
Yeah.
So in actual fact, Kazuma-sama's father did...
He made the late Van Zeeks meet the same fate. He put a permanent end to the professor killings by taking the drastic measure of ending the perpetrator's life. As soon as I heard, I hurried to the mansion. When I arrived, I was easy to grasp what happened. And what about the will? Osogi must have already taken it. Nothing of that nature was found at the scene. We had no idea of the existence of such a document at the time.
Are we gonna call Sholmes? Because...
I don't know. I was the only person who knew of the true identity of the professor. So, I resolved to keep it a secret, and to guard the secret to the bitter end. So you're admitting to it? That you were behind it all? It was you, then, who pinned the crimes on my father?
Of course it was.
I did what needed to be done in order to protect the law and order of the British Empire. Even if it meant employing an unforgivable rouse. Then it was you who arranged this fabricated evidence. I ordered that detective to take care of it, yes, whilst keeping the truth from him, naturally. Gregson!
But who shot Osogi?
Obviously, he opposed me at first.
Are you off your rocker? We can't do something like that.
There's no question that it was Osogi who murdered Lord Van Zeeks. The house staff made statements that saw that the man running from the mansion that night.
Yes, well, I've no doubt it was the Japanese fellow, of course. But we haven't got the conclusive evidence against the man. Worse than that, he doesn't keep a dog, so there's sort of murder weapon to boot.
And we're short on time, Gregson.
Ha!
We must put a stop to this man's rampage for the good of the country. So we'll use whatever means necessary. Do I make myself clear, detective?
Blimey.
So, that night 10 years ago, when I was attacked by those thugs in the back streets, and Jensen's ring was taken, that was him, wasn't it? That was Gregson and some hired help. Then the detective handed the stolen ring to Dr. Wilson, who feigned its discovery from the victim's stomach during the autopsy. And in light of that decisive evidence, Mr. Sogi was found guilty of the charges brought against him. However, behind the scenes, he had actually already struck a deal with his accusers, in which he agreed to silently accept the charges. But I just don't believe that part. As I knew the man, my father despised such underhanded dealings. It was extremely easy to make him comply. You see, he had one crippling weakness. What weakness? Isn't it obvious? You, Kazuma Sogi. Me?
He's threatened his son.
Perhaps you have no desire to return to your homeland, Osogi. What? Though I hear you have a 14-year-old son. Agree to cooperate and accept your guilt without contention, and you will see Japan and your son again.
Lied.
You scoundrel! Whether you choose wisely or not, it will be closed trial by order of Her Majesty, so whatever rash claims you might make in court will have no trouble in stifling them
there's only one outcome for you, Osogi. The gallows. Don't forget that I still have a weapon at my disposal. A document revealing a truth that I know you're desperate to keep hidden. Yes, I had an escape to my mind, which is the only reason I'm willing to bargain with you. I only want to protect this country's law and order. You understand? So, what is it to be, Osogi?
What a jerk.
Kazuma. So he wanted to see his son again. He did it for me? And as I told him at the time, my motive was simply to protect Britain from damage to the truth. To protect this country's law and order at any cost.
But by corrupting the law?
Objection! Sorry. I've never dared let myself even consider this possibility until now. But in the light of all of these, treachery, I have to ask. The mastermind behind the Reaper of the Bailey. Was it you, Lord Mel Strongheart?
Of course it was.
A rather brilliant idea, wouldn't you say, Lord Van Zieks? What? That spirit of your late brother, that paragon of justice, should return to reap justice for his sibling. Could there be a more appetizing tale for London's masses, I ask you?
What? What brazen...
I knew that you'd play the part of perfection, but your role really wasn't that of some embodiment of death, no. You were London's guardian angel. An angel with bloody hands? I think not. Those who had cooperated with me were only too happy to participate in my plan. Inspector Gregson, Dr. Wilson. My minions worked tirelessly to ensure that the finger of guilt could never come to rest on you. It's all thanks to them that you were exalted as the demigod of the Reaper. I don't like you, any of you. But Dr. Wilson left Britain 4 years ago when he was invited to work in Japan. That's right. So I had to employ the services of his young protege after that. Dr. Courtney Scythe. Dr. Scythe? So what would the execution of the Professor and the subsequent reign of the Reaper of the Bailey? I've successfully safeguarded law and order in our mighty capital for the past decade.
By corruption.
That is everything.
Who killed Osogi? Who shot him? Who shot Kazuma's dad? Who killed him?
My lords, ladies and gentlemen, I do hereby confess I was seared the concept of the Reaper. However, let me say in my defense, it was all for the preservation of law and order across the entire empire. Lord Strongheart did it? An unforgivable collection of crimes, but still, all those who died at the Reaper's hand were rotten to the core. If it wasn't the aid of keeping London safe... There is no one left now who can reveal the precise truths of what happened 10 years ago. Therefore, this trial can go no further. Now, I would like to entreat all those present. Beyond those 4 walls, nobody need know the truth. Even Her Majesty must be protected from this. I entrust you all appreciate the importance of my request. It's of course for the good of the country.
Huh?
Can he do this?
But isn't he supposed to go to prison now or be executed?
Well, we'll have to find out tomorrow.
Oh my god.
Because
who shot Osogi?
If you want to find that out, we'll have to wait till tomorrow, because I have a feeling there's at least an hour or 2 left of this case. We're gonna have to somehow convince this guy to go to jail, but he's not the original Reaper, he's somebody else. So he's not... I thought the Chief Justice was actually responsible for killing people, like as the Professor. I thought, because he has this Moriarty vibe to him, but no, it's not him.
Yeah.
It turns out that he is just the guy who came up after, like, and even he wasn't responsible for killing all those people. Like, this is going to be a very interesting web.
People want to know if Zelda's okay.
Zelda's acting really weird. But anyway, guys and gals, that's going to do it.
Thank you so much for watching. Your next stream will be starting up at 8 o'clock. I need to do some stuff in the meantime, such as getting the Power Ranger video ready for release around 10 o'clock. So, Sonic will not be happening until at least 8. But I hope you guys can wait until then. Thank you so much for watching today's Ace Attorney. If the Power Ranger stuff hadn't come out, then of course everything would be moving as scheduled. But you can migrate over to the next stream, of course, and wait there, or rewatch this case as much as you want. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and we will see you on Sonic Generations at 8 o'clock. Thanks so much, everybody. I gotta get to work on Power Rangers. Later!
Alright, guys, see you in an hour or so. God bless, happy gaming, see ya!